Hi guys, I just wanted to do a quick video to talk about change in continuity. What I'm going to do in this video is focus on smuggling and how much smuggling has changed. I want to do this just because in the exam you're going to get questions that ask you about change in continuity. So it's really important with some of these topics, especially things like smuggling, that you know and you can talk about how they have changed and how they have stayed the same. So when you're revising, always be thinking about changing continuity. So always be thinking about differences between periods, whether it's the Anglo-Saxons and the Normans, or whether it's difference between the Romans and the Anglo-Saxons, or even periods that like the Tudor period, the early modern period, and today. And just think about how things have changed and how they stayed the same. A real good hint for you is your factors. Always be thinking about what's changed. Has the government changed? Have people's attitudes changed? Has poverty changed? Is technology a factor? So that's the kind of thing you need to be thinking of. So we've got a question here: how much has smuggling really changed? Okay, so the items that were smuggled in the 1700s, 1800s, sorry, are things like brandy, tobacco, tea, velvet, silk, those kind of things that would be taxed quite highly by the government. Today, you've still got things like alcohol and tobacco that are highly taxed, but as your continuity, you can bring in drugs and then you can bring in people smuggling. Okay, so there's your similarities, alcohol and tobacco, but then you've got different things today, a shift in emphasis on smuggling now towards drugs and smuggling of people. The reasons for smuggling, so in the 17 and 1800s, it was to avoid duty and tax, it was to make a profit, and it was because of public demand. Today, it's the same, but you have also got the items that are illegal, so things like drugs, so cocaine, which is imported from Colombia, things like that. Okay, so part of your answer could be that basically the reasons for smuggling are still the same. However, you would then go on to talk about the differences between things like drugs and people smuggling and like the impact that they might have. The method of smuggling in 17 and 1800s, it was fast sailing ships that landed on the coast of England at night. They were loaded by the local population and controlled by gangs. Today, there's a huge change with technology. You've got speedboats, aeroplanes, cars. Sometimes people smuggle drugs inside them. So that's obviously a completely different way of smuggling. Drugs are still controlled by gangs and criminal syndicates. So there's a similarity between people who are smuggling brandy, tobacco, tea, those kind of things. They were criminal gangs, quite nasty gangs as well. Okay, so you can see the similarities and differences, and that's what you've got to try and pull out in your answer, and use your historical knowledge and your knowledge of the factors to really pull together a good answer. One thing I always recommend to do is a little agree disagree. So smuggling has not changed from the 18th century. How far do you agree? So that's your standard evaluation question that you'll get worth 16 marks. I'm going to do videos on the questions in a bit more depth for you. An agree and a disagree column, and see if you can get 2 to 3 in each one. If you're in my class, then you'll know that you use your WABOS formula to make sure that you do evaluate. If you don't know what that is, it's worth looking up. It's a really good way to do evaluation questions. So that's just a quick overview of how to look at changing continuity in smuggling, and apply the same kind of thing that I've done here to things like crime and punishment in the Roman and the Anglo-Saxon and the Norman periods, or methods of policing in the 1600s compared to the 1900s. You can pick any two topics, it really doesn't matter what, and just think about what's changed and what stayed the same, and that'll help you to prepare for these kind of questions.